Hello, and welcome to this fourth grade episode of Math Matters. Today, we are going to continue learning about elapsed time. For today's lesson, you will need paper and a pencil. Go ahead and gather those materials now. This activity, which one doesn't belong, will help our brains get warmed up and think about what we already know about time and clocks. There are many correct answers to this activity. Mathematicians communicate their thinking, so be ready to explain or justify your answer. Which clock doesn't belong? Use the sentence frame on the screen to communicate your thinking. Maybe you thought C doesn't belong because it doesn't have any numbers on it. Or maybe clock B doesn't belong because it doesn't have any tick marks on it for the minutes and hour. Or maybe D doesn't belong because the hour hand is between the 4 and the 5 rather than the 1 and 2. Can you tell the time on each clock? Remember, the short hand tells the hour and the long hand tells the minutes that have gone by in that hour. On your paper, write the time that is shown on each clock. The time on clock A is 1:15. Clock B is 1:45. Clock C is 1:45. Clock D shows 4:45. Now that we know the time on each clock, can you think of another clock that doesn't belong? Maybe you said clock A doesn't belong because it is the only clock where the minute hand is pointing to the 3. That means it is the only clock that shows 15 minutes have gone by in the hour. Look at the pictures of the two clocks. How are they the same and how are they different? Practice being a communicator by saying your ideas out loud. Use the sentence frames on the screen to help you. There are many ways these clocks are the same. They both have blue faces, they both show a yellow minute hand and a red hour hand, and they both have hands near the 4 and near the 9. They are different because the hour hand is on the 4 in clock A and the minute hand is on the 4 in clock B. The minute hand is on the 9 in clock A and the hour hand is on the 9 in clock B. What is the time on each clock? Write that down on your paper. Clock A shows 3:45. Clock B shows 9:20. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to say, I can determine elapsed time using information from a table. What does elapsed time mean? Elapsed time means the time that passes from the beginning to the end of an activity. Take a look at this table. What do you notice? What do you wonder? Jot down some of your thoughts on your piece of paper. Here are some of my noticings. I noticed that this column shows the different classes that are being offered. I noticed that they all take place on a Monday, that they all start at different times, and that this column shows how long the class will last. Some are listed in minutes, and some are listed in hours and minutes. I wondered who might be looking at this table. I also wondered why all the classes take place on Monday. I also wondered if this shows when the classes start, how could I figure out when the classes end? Now we have some new information to think about. Mason is interested in learning something new. He looks at the rec center schedule for upcoming classes. After looking at the schedule, he sees many things he'd like to sign up for. Think about what you just heard. Retell it in your own words. Let's read the question on the screen. To maximize his time at the rec center, what combination of classes could he take? Let's think about what this question is asking. Since all the classes are on Mondays, Mason cannot take all of them. We will need to figure out what combination of classes he can take without any overlap? We will answer this question, but first we will create a plan for answering it. On your paper, draw the lines that you see on the screen and label each square. When the problem comes back on the screen, write down the information from the problem that you know in this square. You do not need to write down every start time of each class. The problem tells us the start time for each class and the length of each class. This is the information that we know. When the problem comes back on the screen, write in your own words what the question in the problem is asking us to figure out. Write your ideas under the word problem on your paper. The problem we are solving is to try to figure out what classes Mason can take where he'd take the most amount of classes with no overlap. This will maximize his time at the rec center. When the problem comes back on the screen, write down the information we need to solve this problem. Write your ideas under the word need on your paper. We need to figure out the end times of each class. When the problem comes back on the screen, write how we might solve this problem under how. You do not need to solve it yet, but instead Write down what kind of math you would do to solve it. We could calculate the end times by adding the class length to the start time. So now we know that we need to find the end time for each class to be able to choose classes for Mason. So let's do the first one together. Think about swim class. It begins at 4:30 p.m. and it lasts 55 minutes. What will the end time be? We know that swim class starts at 4:30 and has a length of 55 minutes. First, I could jump forward 30 minutes to get to 5 o'clock. If the total class length is 55 minutes and we've used 30 minutes, we have 25 minutes left. So going forward, another 25 minutes makes my end time 5:25 p.m. Now, let's think about yoga class. Yoga has a start time of 5:15 p.m. and lasts 1 hour and 25 minutes. Use your paper and pencil or work it out in your head to find the end time for yoga. We know that yoga starts at 5:15 and lasts 1 hour and 25 minutes. Starting at 5:25, let's jump forward 1 hour. This takes us to 6:25. If we have to go a total of 1 hour and 25 minutes, we have 25 minutes left before the end of yoga class. That means that yoga would end at 6:50 p.m. Now, figure out the end time for cooking class. It begins at 6:15 p.m. and lasts 50 minutes. You might use a number line that looks like this. There are many ways that this problem can be solved. Maybe the first thing you did was make a jump of 45 minutes to get to 7 p.m. Then, to reach the total length of 50 minutes, you would jump another 5 minutes to reach an end time of 7:05 p.m. If you used a different strategy to find the end time of cooking class, Think about how our strategies compare. What is the same? What is different? There are two classes left, karate and ninja class. Use the information on the table to find the end time for these two classes. You might use the number line strategy, or maybe you have another strategy that you'd like to use. The video will be quiet for 5 minutes while you work. After the 5 minutes is up, come back to the video and we'll check our work. This time, I will show my thinking using number sentences. First, let's think about karate class. Karate starts at 3:20 p.m. If we add 40 minutes, That would bring us to 4 o'clock. Karate lasts 45 minutes, so I need to add 5 more minutes to get an end time of 4:05 p.m. Now, let's think about ninja class. Ninja class starts at 3:55 p.m. Let's add 5 minutes to get to 4 o'clock. And now, let's add the remaining 40 minutes to get to 4:40 p.m. Now that we know the start and end time for each of the classes, think about which classes Mason could take that would have no overlap and would give him as many classes as possible. Take some time to write down the possibilities on your paper. Here are 2 possible combinations that you may have considered. Mason could start karate at 3:20, which ends at 4:05, wait 25 minutes, and start swim class at 4:30, which ends at 5:25, wait 50 minutes, and start cooking class at 6:15. He would take 3 classes, but he would also be waiting for 75 minutes. Another option would be to take ninja class at 3:55, which ends at 4:40, wait 35 minutes, and start yoga class at 5:15. With this combination, he only takes 2 classes, but he also only has to wait for 35 minutes. Which option is most appealing to you? Why would you prefer that one? In today's episode of Math Matters, You solved problems involving elapsed time using information from a table. Give a thumbs up if you feel like you got it. A thumb in the middle if you are still practicing. Or a thumb down if you need help from a teacher or someone at home. Thanks for joining me today for this 4th grade episode of Math Matters. I'm Miss Ott. I hope you have a great day and keep on counting.